This demonstration is going to be mainly for rocks and trees as a group, not so much an individual rendering of single items, but how to get a whole island and a whole distant forest in the mist, kind of a stormy sky I want here. I just need to wet the paper just down to the horizon, right over top of it where the trees are going, and let it soak in. Just a mixture of cobalt blue and birch sienna. And it's very wet, the paper. Keep the board on an angle just so that you can control the direction of the flow in the early stages. And I'm just slopping it on here to get kind of a stormy sky. Don't fill in all of it. Leave a bit of white. I'm jumping around, leaving some white paper. And now just let it run. While it's still quite damp, I'll go in and suggest these trees, but make sure that the paint on the brush is drier than what you were putting into the sky. Just add a little more pigment to it, and it's really going to run in. These shapes are going to become quite a bit softer because the paper is so wet. But you can see I'm adding more paint with each brush load, and I'm mixing it as I go. I can't really mix a batch. I got to go back to the palette wells each time and just grab a bit more drier paint. You can see it gets darker, but it's gonna flow, because even when it's that dry, it's gonna bleed on the wet paper. You can speed it up with a blow dryer. It doesn't have any negative effect on the paint. I've never seen that anyway. But you can see already it's kind of pushed that edge into the background and softened it considerably. So we do the same in the foreground. I want wet sand. So I'm just going to soak down that whole foreground area right to the edge of where I want the water to come in. Using the same colors. I'm just going to stick to the same two pigments here, so you're not having to deal with a lot of mixing, color mixing, but more value mixing. Get used to working on wet paper. You have to match up kind of what you've got going in the sky. It's always going to get a little darker in the foreground, so I'm going to mix up a dark batch here, and probably need more than that. It does force you to learn to mix quickly, because we have to get back to the paper before it dries. This is 200 pound, and it stays wet for quite a while. Well, by quite a while, I maybe mean 5 minutes. Same combination, just a lot more paint now. Every time going with more paint, less water. Now I want all these vertical lines to start, because I'm going to mix them with some horizontal patterns. clean the brush, rinse it and clean it, and then you can lift while the paper's still damp. It'll lift out of the dark areas, plus you can drag from the dark into the light, and it makes the little reflections, the ripples that you'll get on wet sand and calm water. It's just nice the way the vertical and the horizontal patterns kind of blend to give you a nice shiny look. Now that's totally dry. So we're going to go put the lightest colors on these rocks, and once again paint these as a group rather than worry about individual rocks. We'll do individual rocks in a different demonstration. That's just a little more burnt sienna at first, and a touch of the cobalt blue. See, I'm just making it a little darker on one side here. The light's coming mostly from the top, slightly from the right-hand side. There'll be parts of the rocks that are wet, maybe, so the tops will be a little darker, or the local color. But generally speaking, keep the tops light. I like to avoid, leave a little white between the rocks and the water. Just catch that edge of splash. And now with a round brush, do a little more of the fiddly work with a couple of smaller ones out there. Just cut in some darks on the shadow side of these rocks. But I like to treat them as a whole group and just make sure I'm not repeating the same shape. Temptation is to get into a routine and make marks that are all identical. Now, because those trees in the distance went so soft, I can put in just a few little very pale, hard-edged ones just coming out of the mist, just to make it a little more mysterious back there, a little more interesting. Just soften the bottom edge and let it just kind of fade into the mist. It's pretty delicate stuff, but I kind of like fiddling with it towards the end of the painting. Don't want to spend too much time on that. Just a hint. Now, it's important to paint this whole area, this whole island full of trees as a group, but of course we're going to see the detail where the trees meet the sky, so we'll draw the tops of them and the edges, the silhouette basically. I've switched to a bit of phthalo blue, or Windsor blue, you could say, in with burnt sienna, or you could use raw umber even, just to get this earthy, dark greens that on days where it's very stormy and cloudy, color goes very bland. Yeah, the rainy season is not terribly bright. You can get away with simple pigments. But it is important to keep various values. So I've gone lighter, darker, a bit warmer, a bit cooler, a little more of the burnt sienna or raw umber in places, and a little more blue in other places. That's the end of that lesson.